Hi, this is Dr. Don. We're going to continue now on the Lab 5 Remix walkthrough. Here we are is where we stopped the first video. You've got to pick one of two research questions in order to complete the remix. And the first question is there a difference in the mean obesity rate between metro and non-metro counties? That sounds like a difference in mean test. And we're going to be looking at the quantitative variable obesity rate between those two types of counties. The other question is there a correlation between a county's obesity rate and its leisure inactivity percentage? And that would be a correlation test. Now you'll see that regardless of which question you choose, we're going to follow the same process over here. I'm going to scroll on down. It says you pick the question, then you need to state your choice of the question there. And the first thing is then what type of test is required to answer the question. So if we picked the first question, which is a difference in means, then I would put an answer there, a difference in means test. Just type it in right there. And the first thing we have to do is the exploratory data analysis. And all we've got to do is jump back over to the rehearse example and follow it. So I'm going to go back here to rehearse 2. And there's the difference in two means. First thing we need to do is to visualize the data. And if I'm correct, if I scroll down here, we've got to create a data visualization. So I'm just going to put my cursor there and go back here into this, and here's to visualize the data. So I'm going to copy that code, go over here into Posit Cloud, paste it in. Now, what we've got to do is to edit this code again for our new data object and our variables of interest. We've written those down on our notepad, remember. So here the old data object is the SAT GPA, and I would just edit that for the new data object, which is the rural underscore health. And then we've got two variables, and our X variable should be our categorical variable. So that's going to be the metro non-metro variable. That's the categorical. And our Y variable is the quantitative, which is going to be the obesity percent. And again, all you've got to do is to look at this. And we've got the metro non-metro with its two levels, and then the obesity percent. And that's what you would edit in there. The other thing you would have to edit, you don't change anything else in there, but down here in these titles, the green, you would change this. Instead of grade point averages for first-year college students, put something appropriate. Obesity rates for metro and non-metro counties, something like that. And then what is your X variable? That's going to be, again, the categorical variable would be type of county, metro, non-metro, something appropriate. And then instead of first-year GPA, we're going to put in obesity percent. And again, it doesn't have to be the variable name in this part, because we just want something that is understandable. And you would type that in. That's that part. And then answer the question, what do you see in that data visualization? The next step is to state the null and the alternative. So let's jump back over here into our rehearse. You can see there was the exploratory data analysis, and sometimes there may be more steps. All you need to do is visualization. I think in here they calculated the means, but you don't have to do that since it wasn't required in your worksheet. If you wanted to insert a code chunk and do that, that's fine, but it's not required. First thing that's required here is to state the null and the alternative. And here we've got a number of examples. So you would state the null and the alternative for your chosen question appropriately. Again, that's the null for the difference in two means. If you decide to do the correlation, we've got the same thing here. The example, oops, there they are, hypotheses. So pick, again, the example you're going to use and stick with it. The next thing we have to do is to specify the level of significance, and we've talked about that. And here you just answer your question. Are you going to use the typical 5%? If not, what are you going to use? And maybe explain a bit why. Okay, if you decide to use something different. Generally, unless you've got a good reason, just use the 5%. Okay. The next thing to do, we're going to test the hypothesis using the Downey method. And the first thing is to calculate the observed test statistic. And so what we're going to do is jump back into our rehearse. And we're going to go down here. Here's test the hypothesis Downey method. And it expands. Here's our step 1. And here's the code I've got to use. So all I need to do is to copy that code, go back here, and here is, I'm in that step 1, put my cursor there, make sure I'm not behind the pound sign, paste it in, and then it tells you, when you're reusing this code, we don't want to change delta observed. We're going to use that all the way through all of these examples. Our observed test statistic is going to be the delta observed name, so we don't want to change that. But we do need to change the name of the data object there, stat GPA, to our new one, rule_health. And then we need to change these two variables. GPAFY is a function of sex. Here it's going to be obesity percent. I think that's the name of the variable. You check your notepad. What is it? How's it written down? And then type it in there. And then the categorical variable is going to be the metro, non-metro variable name. Again, check your notepad. I didn't write it down. I caught myself. And then we want to look at the two levels. The difference in means is what we're going to use. So we don't change that, but we do need to change the female and male to the two levels of your categorical variables. And just pick the way you want to put them in there. Metro versus non-metro. And again, double check your notepad as to how those levels are spelled. I think they're lowercase, but you need to double check those. And they go inside the quotation marks here, because again, we're making this level, and it's categorical. It's a word, so it's not a number, so it's got to be in quote marks. And then we just run the code and print out the results. That's step 1. Again, just follow those instructions. The next step, we answer the question, generate the null distribution, put my cursor there. I go back here into the rehearse, go to step 2. Here's my code, copy my code, go back here in Deposit Cloud. I'm in my step 2, empty code blank, paste that in there, and then just read the instructions. Don't change null dis. We're going to reuse that kind of like we did with the delta observed. So we'll use that consistently. But we do change, again, the data object name, the numerical variable name you change, put in your categorical variable name, metro, non-metro, I think, and then change the levels, metro, non-metro, whatever, the order that you chose before. And so here it is again. Change that data object, change the quantitative variable name there, put in your categorical variable name there, and we leave all those lines alone. And then down here in the bottom, all we change again is the female and male to our new levels of our categorical variable. So that is step 2. And then you answer the question. Step 3 is visualize the null and the delta. I'm going to put my cursor in there, go back here to this one, and I copy that code. And again, just follow the instructions. Only change what it says you should edit and leave everything else alone. Here, we only edit the exit, don't change anything except these titles. So that would be that one. Next step is to calculate the p-value. Again, you would copy the code. I didn't copy the last step. I'm going to go over here and jump on down to calculate the p-value and paste that code in. I didn't paste the prior step, but you would. And then, here, it says when we're using this code, the p-value code, we don't change anything. We just run it because we already got null dist, we already got delta observed, and we don't change anything else, just run it. Last step, we want to specify, whoops, jump down there. There's my last step. Decide if that p-value is statistically significant. Put my insertion there. I go back over here to research 2, go to step 5, copy that code, and again, no other changes are needed. So you get the rhythm there. We're just going to take these 5 steps, copy that code, paste it into your worksheet, and then follow the instructions. And then we've got results and conclusions here that you would write up. One thing we did add here, we want you to look at an alternative way that you can analyze the hypothesis test, and that's using a confidence interval. And here we got the same thing. We've got to copy in the code. If I go back here and I go to my confidence interval method, I just copy this code in and then follow those instructions. What to change, what not to change. And generally it's the same thing. Change the data object, change the name of the 2 variables, and then change the levels of the categorical variable there. Finally, we're going to look at a traditional method. And this is one that you would normally, find in some intro class. It seems simpler, but it involves a lot of assumptions that we've got to test. But again, you would just copy it, go back over here into the traditional empty spot, paste it in, and edit it. And then we just answer the questions. Okay, that is it. So I hope this helps. Again, it'll be the same process every time. We'll be using those Downey steps, and those are the most important part of this analysis. And you just follow the instructions on what to edit. I hope this helps.